Hi there, and welcome to this edition of Empowerment Hour here at Calon FM. I'm your host, Denise Oliver, and my guest today is all about, I'm getting distracted already, is all about canine massage therapy. Now, as a nation that loves our animals, and in particular our dogs, our four-legged friends, I was just fascinated to find out what this involved. So just to remind everyone, we are still in that situation where we cannot be in the studio yet. It's still not a possibility. We are doing this over Zoom. Occasionally there are interruptions with the internet and things like that. Bear with us. We're doing our best to continue to bring you as many shows at Calon FM as we possibly can. So all that said, I'd like to say hello to Hayley Hilton, who is Hands on Heart clinical canine massage therapist. That's quite a mouthful. Hello, how are you?
Yes, hello Denise, and thank you for having me on.
So, Hayley, just give us a little introduction to you. Where are you based to start with?
Mostly around Cheshire at the moment. I currently live in Earlham, but I'm hoping to move down to Northwich area because it's mainly because where a lot of my clients are. And you know, when you just think, oh, actually, I like to. I don't know, it's just got that energy that I quite like at the moment. But saying that, my clients are from kind of Warrington to Winsford, and actually I've got a couple up in Burnley as well.
Right. So is everything you do mobile?
Yeah, so at the moment I do travel to my clients, which has got the added benefit that it actually helps calm them down as well anyway, because they're in their own home. Sometimes you do have that issue where you're going into their own home and they're like, who the hell are you? You're coming in and prodding me and poking me. Hang on, I've not invited you. Yeah. But yeah, it's no, eventually I do want a clinic of my own, but it's especially doing the garden appointments, because at the moment, especially with the social distancing, I've been doing a lot of my appointments in gardens. So the owners are out, you know, at the back door, or they let me in the backyard, etc. And it's been quite zen. It's been quite nice actually, just getting back, hearing the birds singing, just taking in the nature. And obviously some of the elements are a bit iffy on Sundays recently, but now we've got carports and garages recently as well, so those have been quite good.
Well, that's cool. How long have you been doing this? And I get that this wasn't your initial career, so what were you to begin with before you came into this?
Well, I started off my career basically I was analytical chemistry, but alongside of that, I'm just working in the laboratories for antiseptic hand washes and wound care products. But running alongside that, I was also in the Navy Reserves as well. So learning, that was mainly in logistics. And so running those alongside each other, I kind of learned a lot of the ways to do things by other people's opinions, and it was always everybody else's agenda that I was looking at. But I was always interested in science, and science and people, quite frankly. I think that's the main reason for the Navy side, and just helping, because I joined for humanitarian reasons in the Navy. But I was doing that for, I think it's probably about 13, 14 years in total, probably a bit more than that actually. And then I got made redundant from my science job, started to work in clinical research and working on the safety and efficacy of the products as well for the patients at the other end. And then when I got made redundant from that, I was really stressed at the time, got a lot of responsibility with too little training that we knew of at the time. And the last thing I wanted to do when I got made redundant was go and do the same job. And my boss at the time, she said, well, have you thought about working with dogs? Because you really like the dogs. And then I thought, well, yeah, it just never occurred to me before, because it never felt like a real job. Something that you can get so much heartfelt benefit from yourself. And so I started up the dog home boarding business with my dog Lola. So with my last name being Hilton, we named it Hilton Hotel for Dogs. And she was the concierge. But I was just the brains behind the operation. She was the one who did the day-to-day running of it. But then I realised I kind of missed my science a little bit, and the canine massage found me, really. And the training was then 2 years worth. And so I was accredited from that about 2 years ago now, actually. So that's how long I've been in business for myself.
Well, that sounds amazing. I'd like to find out more about what the training involved. But first of all, we're going to go to a song, and then we'll come back and find out a lot more about what you do. So thanks for all of that. And yeah, listener, this is Empowerment Hour. I'm Denise Oliver. My guest is Hayley Hilton, and we'll be back shortly. Hi there, welcome back. You're listening to Empowerment Hour with myself, Denise Oliver, my guest, Hayley Hilton, who is a canine massage therapist, a clinical canine massage therapist. And Hayley, you were saying that your training took you 2 years. So, I mean, this is not something I've never heard of before. So how did you find it, and what does it involve?
Well, it was interesting because I've always liked, massaging friends and family when I was growing up anyway. Everyone always thought I was good at it. So weirdly, when I was looking for something else to do with the dogs, to carry on my science, it found me. So the Canine Massage Therapy Centre, it's run by a lass called Natalie Lenton. Down in the Midlands, and she does these, it's a distance learning programme. So for the first year is all self-directed theory modules. So we did 12 modules in total, working on the anatomy and physiology of the dogs. So each of the systems, like the muscular, the skeletal, the skin, the nerves, everything right down to the nth degree. And it was really enjoyable as well. But we also looked at how to work the business as well. And then the second year was all the practical sessions. So we came together 5 or 6 times a year, including an exam at the end, which was a bit scary. You don't realise you get to your 40s and then think, oh God, I've got to do an exam again. It's been really interesting, especially with the training that we do. We do the ongoing training, so the CPD, to make sure that we're still safe and still doing the same, learning new techniques as well as going over the old ones as well, which are quite good, and sharing experiences.
Yeah, I mean, have you found that some breeds of dogs respond better to this, should I say? Or are there just some dogs, because of their personalities, that are going to love it and some aren't going to like it at all? Does that happen?
Well, generally, I mean, canine massage is for all dogs of all breeds and all sizes as well. I remember when I first started out, I was working at Cheshire Dogs Home for them, and I went from a Chihuahua to a St Bernard, and that messed with my mind. All of a sudden, trying to figure out what the issue was. I mean, that was. But whereas the smaller dogs, for example, they have issues with their knees, called luxating patella, which is a floating kneecap. So they're more issues with those kind of those smaller joints that could get, so the knee doesn't stay where it's supposed to because it's so tiny.
Yeah.
But then you've got the larger dogs that have the arthritis, the hip dysplasia, those weight-laden issues, and it's more adapting. I've learned, especially the last couple of years, to adapt really the technique. Some dogs will like more of a deeper approach, and then other dogs will like more of we do a technique called myofascial release, which isn't going deep, but it's more energetic.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, as to whether we build their trust, that's why we recommend 3 sessions, because you can build that trust. You can either go deeper each time, but it's just more getting the dog to trust you. Because if you went straight in there and inverted commas fixed the issue that you went in there with, it would get a bit of therapeutic discomfort. for example, if you've ever been for a massage and it's like, oh, that bit, oh, but that's good, so you're actually getting in deeper. But with a dog, they're like, what the hell are you doing? You're coming into my house, and you're hurting me now. Well, I'm never going to let you in that door again.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, there are times when I've been for a massage and I thought, I'm not doing this again.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and when I went for a sports massage once, I mean, Lola, as you say, she's a Rottweiler, but she was wondering what this lady was doing to her mum at one stage in time when the air was blue.
Yeah, I do think there are times when some massage is just too intense, and I prefer something that's way more relaxing than is too hard and just presses in too hard. I'm sure it sets my vagus nerve off, and so it's more of a stress than it is a relaxation.
Exactly, yeah, and it is adapting to that as well and seeing what the client wants. But the secret is more to warm up the muscle and warm up that area as well before you go in for to actually fix it as well. But as you said, if it's a clinical massage, then it's more fixing a condition, whereas yes, a relaxing massage is more kind of that the pamper session, even though they've got those underlying benefits.
Cool.
As well.
I'm loving this. It's great. I'm ex-nurse, so talking about dogs' bodies and human bodies, it's all very similar, really, isn't it? So we're going to take a break.
It really is, actually. Yeah, it helped.
Yeah. So we're going to take a break now, and then we'll be back to what I'd like to find out more from you is someone's called you up and said, I think there's something wrong with my dog. They don't know what to call it. When you go and first meet the owner and the dog, what does that look like? What do you do? What happens at that point? So we'll take a break now. Welcome back. We're talking all things canine, our best friends in the whole wide world, our doggies. And we've got unstable internet connection. Are you there, Hayley? Hello, Hayley, are you there? So Hayley, are you with me? We have got a very glitchy internet connection at the moment doing this recording over the Zoom platform. So Hayley, I was saying, I don't know if you heard me, when you actually get a call from someone who's not sure what is wrong with their dog, what happens when you first go and do the assessment? I guess you've got to sort of, the owner's concerned, and you've got all of that to take into consideration as well as the dog. So what happens to start with?
Well, to start with, they've usually had a diagnosis of some description from the vets, but if they haven't, then that's the reason why we work closely with the vets. So that's the reason why it's a complementary therapy as opposed to an alternative therapy, because we work with the vets themselves. And vet regulations state that we can't do any hands-on work until we've consulted and got consent from the vet. To make sure that there's no underlying issues, so any spinal things like that. But initially, if they're like, well, my dog's limping, then it's engaging them in that conversation, and it's worked out quite well during this COVID time that I can get them to send me a video of how their dog's walking at different speeds, because at different speeds dogs use different muscles, so they may find that they're not raising their leg enough on one day, or it might not be all days, it might be so it might be fine the day after, but then they've done something else as well. So it's sending me a little video when that's when they're noticing it themselves. That's the glory of smartphones at the moment. You can just send them to me, because with the gait analysis we can see when they're dropping a shoulder, and because of our experience you can figure out which muscles are responsible for lifting that leg, or it might be an overcompensatory issue on the other side, so the other side taking the strain and then that one's starting to hurt as well, so then you think actually it's in the other leg. Right. So at this moment, it is just a superficial check, and that's when we'd get them to go in for the vet, so the vet would actually check them over just to make sure that there's nothing else. But hands-on wise, when we come to see them after we've had that consent form signed, then that's when we can do a head to tail analysis and check all the different muscles out. And we use 4 techniques, so the temperature of the muscle can dictate as to whether or not it's working too much or too little. The tone of the muscle, so if the muscle's working too hard or not enough, or the texture, which is, you can tell whether there's any strains underneath, or, you know, how the muscle's working or what's happened to it, but also tenderness. So as we were saying earlier on about that trust with the dog, sometimes if I'm touching a bit that the dog will flinch at, or look round at me slowly and say, yes, you've got that bit. And if I can engage the dog with eye contact, say, that bit, right, okay, we'll go slowly with that bit. And it's just that indication that you're thinking, especially from over those couple of sessions, to see how they develop and see whether you can feel something different in the second session, or whether something's got better as well. So it's it's engaging in the conversation, because it's having that with the owner as well as the vet, because the owner knows the dog better than the vet. It's having the conversation between everybody, and if they're having any other therapies like hydrotherapy as well, the hydrotherapist might have spotted something. So those have been quite interesting conversations as well, because you get a different perspective.
There's things like hydrotherapy for dogs. I don't have a dog anymore. We used to have one. We had a long-haired Dachshund. She was a miniature thing, and she ended up having back problems. You know, Dachshunds are long, and that's something that does happen. But she did live to be 17 and a half. So she was doing quite well, but she was a bit of a scrag bag by the time she died. She had a stroke in the end. She was so old and so ancient. We adored her. She was feisty as anything. She was amazing. I tell you what we'll do is we'll have another break, Hayley, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that this internet connection keeps going so that we get this recording done. So let's take a break now. Hi there, welcome back. This is Empowerment Hour, and I've got the rather marvellous Hayley Hilton with me, who's talking all things doggy empowerment today. So she's got a vast experience of what sort of conditions a dog might be experiencing. And Hayley, you talked about what it would be like to go and do that initial assessment of a dog. You've been consulted by a vet or a doggy hydrotherapist. The owner knows something's not right, and you've worked out what it is that isn't quite working for the dog. What do you then do? Can you give us an example of something that when you're called out to see a dog, what might be wrong, and how you then gain that dog's confidence in order to change that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because every dog's different as well. So it is that initial approach. And as you said, the communication between the vets and the owners, but the communication with the dog is just as important as well, actually. And it is that communicating when you hit a bit that hurts, when you're I'm just trying to describe it because I'm very hands oriented, and I'm figuring out that this is radio, so but it's having those, I mean, the underlying issues and what the owner has seen as well. And as you said, we treat the dog as a whole anyway, but there are issues that you can see in different dogs as well. So some may be at the beginning of an issue. So, for example, early onset arthritis, because apparently arthritis these days, went on a course last year, and they were saying that 80% of dogs over 20% of dogs over 8 have arthritis symptoms. But actually 80% of dogs in general have arthritis symptoms, even below the age of 8. But they're starting with them, and you can see those signs and signals sometimes. So, and the thing with arthritis is, yes, it's a joint disease, but the muscles that are attached that stabilize all those joints all work as a whole as well. So that's the reason why we'd start with more of a Swedish massage technique, just to get the blood flowing back around the body, and draining all those toxins that may have so if you're an athlete and you got lactic acid in your muscles, or if you ran for a bus, for example, and you get cramp, it's the same kind of thing. So you'd work on those issues that you can see as well, but it's laying the ground and the foundations, and making sure that you soften the tissue ready for the next stage when you see them afterwards, when you might be able to look at the actual joint itself a bit more and figure out if there's one of the muscles that aren't working that the other ones are overcompensating for, get them all back working as a group. So there's lots of different things with it, but as to initially, it's kind of, you have to drop into your heart with dogs, rather than just thinking in your head all the time, oh God, am I doing the right thing? It's that dropping into your heart and thinking, right, what does this dog need in this moment right now? Yeah. So yeah, keeping notes as well. But I do have issues in my left and my right, and when the dog's moving around quite a lot sometimes, and they're like, no, do this side now, no, do this side now, or I'm not gonna let you do that bit just yet. It's it is figuring that out, what you can do in the moment as well, and then making sure you double check which side's which when you're in your notes left later on.
And do you get to a point where there are some dogs that that your technique isn't going to work for them and they need something else?
Yeah, we always say, because I'm part of the Canine Massage Guild, which has got the foundations from the Canine Massage Therapy Centre. We always say that we only treat a dog for 1 to 3 sessions to begin with. So we won't book them in. Some people book them in for 10 sessions farther down the line. But if the dog itself, because not every dog will respond to canine massage, but if they do, you'll see a difference. You'll see a response within those 1 to 3 sessions. So after the 3 sessions, that's when we'll send a vet report back to the vet and say, maybe there's something else that's going on here. And sometimes if they might need their pain meds upping. Okay. Because the combination of doing that, the holistic approach and the multimodal approach is the buzzword at the moment, is getting the vet, the owner prevention side of things, the things they want to do in the house, and us as well, or any other therapists. And sometimes you can figure out they may want a physiotherapist who works on the core. So yeah, there's lots of things to think about.
It's a bit like us, isn't it? There's a lot of things to think about. Like, I didn't know all these things were available for dogs. Anyway, we're going to take a break. Hayley, this is absolutely fascinating, and we'll be back shortly. Hi there, welcome back. This is Empowerment Hour. I'm Denise Oliver. My guest today is Hayley Hilton of Hands on Heart Clinical Canine Massage Therapy. I am discovering so much about the world of doggies and what's available to them. It's like, well, I don't know what it's like. It's like pampered pooches on steroids, really, isn't it?
It kind of is, but it's like us as well. I mean, there's lots of therapies that have come up for us as well, aren't there? The holistic therapies for us humans. The amount of, especially with travel, you found out more about Chinese medicine that's been available for that long, and a lot of these things have been around. Because I know the founder of our canine massage technique, she's been doing it for, I think, about 14, 15 years. So she's got a successful business from it, and those people who know her know about it. But yeah, it is. It's trying to educate the vets as well. A lot of vets don't know about these, because they know about the joints, but they don't know about the benefits to the muscle and the massage, and just getting it's like the support network for the joints, I suppose. Yeah. And working on the different nervous systems, to getting them out of the fight or flight mode and getting them into that rest and relax mode. But it's exactly the same with us humans. There's so many things, and so many talking therapies for us humans as well, isn't it? Yeah. I've had to have that since I got made redundant as well anyway. So it's like, why not talk to the dogs as well?
I agree. I used to talk to my dog all the time. And she used to talk to
answer back either. They do listen, don't they, quite a lot of the time.
Well, she used to really, we had the dog before we had the children, and she looked after them. and she kept them in their place. You know, they needed herding. She was there. She sorted it.
See, a lot of the dogs, they have innate things about them, don't they, as well? They've never been taught herding or cart pulling as well, some of them, but they're built for it. Like Lola, our Rottweiler, she was built originally for cart pulling. She'd never pulled a cart, but put something on, put a harness on her. She drags you down the road. It's one of those.
Yeah. You're very much into holistic stuff with the animals. You've already mentioned that they're a whole being. What sort of other things do you advise for doggy owners? I mean, things like you see all sorts of new products like new doggy beds and doggy treats and clean their teeth with this. What do you recommend?
The basis, there is quite a lot. You just touched on it then about the treats, but it's the nutrition as well, making sure that you're feeding them the right things, exactly like we'd put into our bodies. You wouldn't put a McDonald's in your body every day. Well, you're not supposed to anyway. But there's certain foods out there that people feed their dogs, or they feed them human food, and you're thinking, well, actually it's not got the right nutritional benefit for the dog. Mm-hmm. Feeding them too much, for example, we touched on arthritis earlier on. Feeding them too much, the obesity can increase the risk of arthritis as well and worsen those symptoms. So starting with that and making sure you get the right supplements as well. If they are lacking certain things like the glucosamine and chondroitin, like supplements that we have, or turmeric's got a really big newsworthy bulletin recently as well. So exactly the same with dogs. Their system do work a lot like ours, but yeah, there's a lot of things like we were saying about the home issue. So when you're actually looking around the home, there are things, if there are too many steps. I saw a client last week who the only way you can get down to the garden is via a lot of steps, and that's putting extra strain on the dogs. So under normal circumstances you could get a ramp, especially like jumping in and out of cars. And so many people say, no, they're just getting lazy, they're just getting old. Well, you're thinking, hang on, look at the size of your dog, look at the height of your boot, and you're saying your dog's lazy when it's twice the size of their head. Yes, it is a bone of contention sometimes with me, that. But getting a ramp to help them up there, or just lifting them into the boot or out of the boot as well, so that then they can go and run around the park. If they can't do a lot of exercise but they like the park, but it's too far away and you haven't got a car, then why not get one of the buggies? You might see a couple of the arthritis dogs at the moment, or dogs with issues, just so they can have a sniff around the park. That's a great thing as well, actually, just giving them more. If they can't get out and exercise more, it's the sniffing. There's a couple of theories at the moment where they can, sniffing is actually something like 5 times worth. If they sniff for 5 minutes, it's worth an hour of exercise. It's one of those. I don't know what the numbers are because I'm not a statistician, and nobody knows where that's actually come from, but it tires the dog out, but it helps them mentally as well, because obviously their noses are so sensitive. So they can smell the dogs, they can search for their food, things like that, and there's so many things. But yeah, get in touch if you want to know more about that.
It's absolutely fascinating. We're going to take a break now, come back for the final section where I'd love you to give out your contact details for anyone who's listening. Hi there, final session. Bit of a short one, this one, Hayley. So before we say anything else, please give out how anyone who wishes to find out more about what you do, where can they find you so they can take a look?
For starters, I'm always on Facebook. I do have my Facebook page, which is Hands on Heart Clinical Canine Massage, but my website is handsonheart.dog, which is something that we found. So instead of the .com or the .co.uk, it's .dog.
I did not know there was such a thing.
Exactly. And it's amazing all these new technologies that we can get, isn't it? But yeah, and all my contact details are on those. Or just connect with me personally, Hayley Hilton, on Facebook as well. And see what we get up to. You can just see all my pictures of all my dogs, but mainly Lola.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I've taken a look at your Hands on Heart page on Facebook, and there's loads of information there, stuff that we've been talking about today. You've got the lovely Noel Fitzpatrick on there as well, looking at, you know, the things you do before a doggy needs to go and see someone like him. And you are very much into dogs having a real quality of life. They're not just for Christmas, are they? They're such a contribution to us, and yeah, someone like you is just enhancing that contribution. So I really thank you for this. It's just been fascinating. I love finding things that I've never come across before, and having the people on the show with me who know this stuff. So it's been amazing. Thank you so very, very much, and hopefully we'll have you back sometime in the future if you'd come back again.
Yeah. But thank you for having me. I mean, this is all, it starts with a conversation and just learning more about it and just educating so we can build the trust. But thank you.
No, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for listening. If you want to know more about canine massage, then please contact Hayley Hilton, Hands on Heart Clinical Canine Massage Therapist on Facebook. And what was the other one? What was your dog?
Handsonheart.dog is the website.
That's hilarious. I love it. I'm going to really enjoy thinking about that, and I hope everyone who's listening to the show does as well. Thank you for listening to Empowerment Tower. I'm back next week, and please stay tuned to Calon FM. There's a lot more to come yet today. Bye for now.